Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Hello everyone, welcome to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm here tonight with Josh the Intern, who just got done driving across the heart of Texas to go to his weekly skirmish. How's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you?
Good. How'd you do tonight?
I went 2-2.
So you said, go ahead, yeah.
I would say I wasn't horrible, but I will say I'm not going to miss when Dorinthea is no longer the strongest thing in the meta at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. So we're just going to be talking basically meta musings tonight. Josh has been able to get a lot of games in. I was able to get some IRL games in last week, so that's what we're talking about tonight. All right, guys, thanks for joining us again. It's great to have you back, Josh. How you been keeping yourself busy?
With two kids, they take up a lot of time. They make it easy to be busy a lot.
Yeah, fair enough. It's been a while since we've had you on. We've got the budget series going. I know you've got some budget decks you're going to crank out for us. We'll get them in before Monarch drops. I know that's the talk of the town right now, but there's been a lot going on over the last, 6 weeks or so, not only just with us playing, but obviously we've had the online skirmishes across the world. So I just kind of wanted to get your opinion as someone who gets a lot more regular games in than I do. What do you feel the impact of the skirmish? I mean, there's been a lot of games played, right? And what do you feel the skirmish is at the local level of that?
I think one of the more interesting things is we've seen the meta change from really kind of when it started 4 or 5 weeks ago. Ira was the go-to, and now Tall Dorinthea has emerged as the main counter to that. So we've seen kind of a shift in, I would think, a relatively short period of time where the game has kind of changed and evolved to being that go-wide attrition deck with a lot of aggression to the go-tall Dorinthea, where you're doing front pumps and a little bit of attack reactions, but it's all I'm going to hit you for 12. If you block, I might hit you for more with a defense reaction. And it's just really strong now with seeing kind of that metamorphosis between, even the calling in New Zealand. I think it was a little bit of Dorinthea, but it was mostly Ira was taking slots in the top 8. And now I think we're seeing more Dorinthea. Still some Ira. She's still extremely good, but I think Dorinthea is just in a really awesome spot right now with how they've developed the decks to go for a go tall instead of the kind of reactionary warrior. And you have to change how you play to deal with it.
Well, I mean, the go tall comes as a response to the flick flack thing, right? So,
right.
So I know you have quite a few reps with Bravo, and I know you tend towards the hammer builds. But if tall's the thing, isn't Bravo positioned pretty well, or is it just that he can't compete with Dorinthea? Is that the problem?
Well, I think it could be done with Bravo, but I think there needs to be some kind of strategizing on how to accomplish what Dorinthea does in a similar fashion, because Bravo is very good at going tall, but a lot of his go tall is with dominate. And what the Dorinthea build, and the precursor a little bit to Ira, is people are really starting to emphasize cards out of hand. So dominate is great to push some damage through, but if you're not getting cards out of the opponent's hand, then you're not affecting their board state as much. So in some ways, dominate can actually, if they survive the hit, give them a better round than you might expect if you're getting 2 or 3 cards out of hand by swinging big and not having done
Sure, and I mean, you and I have talked about that before. How sometimes it feels that dominate hamstrings you a little bit, right? I think we've
right.
talked about
And
that
I
with
think that's one
Azalea,
of the
but
reasons why, like, intimidate can be for brute can be a great mechanic, but if they survive, you're at a disadvantage almost because they might have card advantage on you, and you're having to block their big attacks just to try to stay in the
sure.
game.
So I mean, so okay, so then you led me into the next. I know you said you took Brute tonight, right?
Hmm.
And so I mean, it's the same type of problem where you're just not stripping their hand. I mean, that's just what I gather from what you said. So fair enough. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, what happened? Like, is the reason Dash is? I mean, it feels like months since we've played Classic Constructed. I mean, is this just?
Yeah.
I feel like Dorinthea translates pretty well to Classic Constructed. I don't know that necessarily Ira. I mean, obviously Ira can't play, but I don't know if that strategy would
Right.
work. What are your thoughts there?
I think that, and to be fair, I don't have as much experience in Classic Constructed than I do in Blitz, but I think that Dash is still pretty. It's basically kind of the equivalent to how the Ira deck works when you're using the pistols and getting 3 or 4 shots around, plus a big boost attack. Um, I think she's very viable in Constructed. I don't think she has the same success in Blitz because the loss of a third of your cards and a boost mechanic doesn't translate well. But I think that Dash is probably still number one or number two in Classic Constructed, and now the Gotal Dorinthea, I think, still um, because they can pump out so much damage in a turn. It doesn't really matter what format she's in. She's probably going to be able to accomplish what she wants to, and you have to adapt to it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, fair enough. So okay, so I mean, talking about the meta a little bit, I'm very curious about this. I guess I'm curious what your take is on the skirmish phenomenon that we're seeing across the world, right? I mean, we know that, or I shouldn't say, yeah, I mean, yeah, skirmish, which is skirmish. So just to be clear, everyone, skirmish is the event, right? And we're talking about skirmish as being blitz format, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Right.
What's been very interesting to me is watching how I feel the game has evolved in the last 2 months in terms of the community, because you have, the same people have been able to play literally events across the globe from their chair. So how do you feel that
Right.
that's changed? I don't know, Fab, right? I mean, I guess it's a general question, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I kind of have mixed emotions about it because on one hand, I think it's given the opportunity to play people you wouldn't normally get to play and have an opportunity to introduce the game to people who normally wouldn't have access to it. Um, but I think that this game, and I've had the most enjoyment in this game playing in person. So I kind of have mixed feelings because when tournament season is around, normally it's I'm going to go to my local game store, and maybe there's 2 game stores in town, and maybe I'll even travel to one. So I'm only going to have like 2, maybe 3 opportunities to play in these more prestigious tournaments, and that's kind of it. Whereas now on a Saturday, if they're timed right, you could have 3 skirmishes in a day. And so there's a lot of reps and there's a lot more playing of the game, and I think ultimately that's probably good. But I'm not sure if I just hope that under the circumstances, it's understandable that they kind of enforce the online play and webcam play at least requires you to have the cards versus TTS sort of thing. But I hope it doesn't become the norm because I think going forward, even though I do think it's very cool, we saw a very quick meta change and people adapting to the meta in a very short period of time that we may not have experienced as quickly if we were playing in a more traditional format. But I just hope it doesn't become the norm. So I think this game played in person at your local game store is how it was intended to be played, and I hope that that's the norm once we're out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. And, and just to be clear for anyone viewing and who's blowing up the screen right now, there are very different experiences depending on where you are in the globe right now, right? I mean, if you're in New Zealand or in the Pan-Oceanic area, you've been able to get lots of games in this whole time for the most part. So, maybe, but there's other parts of the world that are only playing this game online. And there's 2 reasons for that. or two potential reasons for that. One is that people don't have all the cards. The other is that you just don't have stuff open. And I think everyone understands that. I don't think anybody has a problem fundamentally with what Skirmish has been. I think it's been a general success. I think everyone would agree with that. But I have to agree with you. You know, what I've seen come out of this is I've seen, you know, there are online streamers now that they're just constantly streaming, and they've got, you know, just like they're a Twitch person or a Call of Duty person on Twitch. They're just constantly streaming. Yeah. People are tipping them. And I don't feel that was the game that we all bought into, both figuratively and literally. Right. So I mean, don't get me wrong, we've had to do it. But I feel that if suddenly LSS, I mean, I guess, don't you feel that if LSS suddenly, let's say July 1st, they're like, okay, we're open, no more stuff online, don't you think there's going to be people who are angry about that?
I think there could be, but I'm not as much concerned about it because most of the people that, even in the webcam, obviously since it's a webcam format, they have the cards.
That's fair.
They have the potential to play in person, and I think they'll want to. I know that there's, I believe, a small minority who prefer TTS. I think TTS is a great tool to be able to play or jam some games and get some reps in, but I don't think it should be a recognized format or even standardized. And if they want to play on TTS, no one's stopping them. It just won't be an officially recognized event that's getting you XP and getting you into prize pools unless it's, you know, a local game store supported, which is great and fine when that happens. So I don't think it'll affect the community. And I think even with the Skirmish, how they've planned, I think LSS has done the best they can to make it as enjoyable and accessible to as many people as possible. And I don't think there's been many things to complain about how they've handled things and try to make the best of it. And really the only downside is the randomization of the prize pool. So there's not really an incentive other than XP for getting first place. But I don't think they could have done it any other way because, you know, being online and being, you know, even with a webcam setup, there's just not as many controls as you would have inside a game store. And other than that one concession of that maybe not being the best thing, I think LSS has handled it well, and I think a lot of people who've liked what LSS has done will continue to support what they're doing because I think they're doing the best they can, and the game, I think, isn't faltering where it could have in this environment.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's very, very well said. And you know, I just want to be clear to everyone out there, we've run tournaments, we being Dice Commando through our partner store. We've run tournaments online. Josh and I slam games on TTS. We have no problem with playing the game online. Like that's not the issue. We're just talking about the overall arcing, right, you know, community state. Where really, to be honest, we're like completely honest, we're not throwing stones in either direction. It's been an interesting shift since Skirmish has started, and I'm curious to see what'll happen when it switches back. So now again, I'll default to you as the guy who gets to see locals. What is at least your interpretation of, you know, what's the local chatter? What's the local feel for Fab now? Do you feel that people are less incentivized to come play locally, or have you seen anything like that?
I will say, actually, and I don't know if it's directly related or not, but tonight was the first time we've had 4 rounds in Blitz in probably 3 or 4 months, and that means we had 3 or 4 people here tonight that we didn't have last week even. So I think that there's still people who are interested in getting in this game, you know, physically and in person, and buying product and supporting local game stores. So where I thought it kind of had stagnated a little bit, I think this Skirmish season, by coincidence or not, it's still drawing people to this game. And since they still need physical product, they are buying from stores. Since I happen to be relatively close to a local game store that is doing in-store events, I'm seeing more people than I haven't seen previously. So the game is still growing local, and I think those are all good signs.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, 100%. I think there's no doubt that it's gotten interest in. I think kind of my overarching question through all of this was how much of that's going to be able to convert. How much of the Skirmish, what's the right word? How much of the momentum built during Skirmish, which has been amazing, how much of that's gonna carry forward? And I don't know that anybody knows the answer to that, right? But that's just the question. So,
yeah, I will say it's the locals have felt a little bit different because we tend to fly relative on trying new things. And for me, especially, a lot of times these in-store blitzes are the only opportunity I have to even practice a deck. So I'm theory crafting and then trial by fire a lot of times. And where it used to be a lot of us learning or trying new things or learning characters in the game we hadn't played before, the last few weeks, I think Skirmish has gotten people a little bit more competitive than they normally would be. I mean, it's still friendly competition, but we're playing more meta decks and trying to see what can break the meta. Whereas before, it was just kind of, this is a deck I want to try. Let's jam some games. So I do think the Skirmish has had that effect, at least locally, for us who have had the opportunity to play in person, is we're, we're looking at it as more competitive, because Skirmish is kind of the first thing I've seen since I've been in this game where there's a competition, there's prizes, there's XP to earn, there's double XP than normal, and if you're into that sort of thing as a kind of status ladder, it's added a kind of a spicy element.
Yeah. So I mean, you actually had something you just said. Makes me kind of the lead in here, which is going into Monarch. I mean, one of the things, when you were talking, you were saying, well, people are getting more competitive, and that's also kind of one of the results of being close to the end. I mean, we're nearing the end of the meta. We're going to have spoilers here in 10, 12 days from when we're shooting this, which means that everyone's going to immediately forget about the old world, right? So you're nearing the end of the meta. People have figured stuff out.
Right.
With that said, moving into Monarch, one of the things I'm excited about is the Blitz precons. I think most people are excited. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've seen log on to the, ask a question to the global Facebook page. Where do I get new decks? Where do I get starter decks? Stuff like that over the last month. And we'll finally have somewhere to go. But the fact that we're marketing Blitz, which is a no-brainer, don't get me wrong, no-brainer starting point, but the fact that Blitz is being marketed, do you think that coming off the Skirmish momentum right into a Blitz starter point, do you think that's going to signify a shift in Flesh and Blood, the game, as well?
I'm not sure. I would like to say no, only because I think people may have a preference one way or the other, whether they like Blitz or Classic Constructed. But having played both, I think it's a different game, and that adds a level of a dimension to the game that it's not just that you have shorter decks and you have less health. How you play the game is very different. So I actually think that's kind of refreshing to have choices between how you prefer to play, or if you prefer to just play in general, having more and more options of how to build and strategize building decks. I think there might be more. I think there's a practical reason why Blitz is more attractive. For example, the reason why I play on Tuesdays is because I can do 3 or 4 rounds, and it's less time consuming than trying to show up on a Saturday when they do full constructed. And so I think that option will be there, and I think some people will be attracted to that, obviously, because it is a quicker, kind of more fast-paced game. But most of the people I know who play, they play both formats, and they have preferences one or the other. And I just think it adds an extra dimension to the game. Even just thinking of deck building and strategizing, what you do in Blitz isn't the same thing the same decision making you would make in Classic Constructed. So I don't think that it will make an impact on whether people play Classic Constructed still, but I do think it may come to be that Blitz might be the preferred format for a lot of tournaments, just because I think it's more practical, it's quicker rounds, and more manageable, I think, from a TO perspective, especially, with hopefully we're getting more people and having, I know some of these skirmishes have gone up to 64 people, and I don't know how you manage that many rounds with that many people if the game takes 50% longer to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed all the points, right? I mean, yeah, you just nailed it all. I mean, I don't. What Skirmish has shown us is that let me rephrase or back up. If Skirmish had been Classic Constructed, do you think as many places would have held their tournaments? I don't. I mean, well, there's the obvious answer. There's no, because all it takes is one person to say no to say yes to my question, right? But I just mean in general as a philosophy. Right. I don't know that I, as a TO, would have wanted to run a 64-person tournament that takes 12 hours online. That's a lot of work.
Right. And I think what we may have seen is I don't know how many stores put hard caps. I know some did for how many people that have played just in general. But I think some places just had an open-ended, if you want to sign up and pay the fee, we'll bring you in and we'll be able to accommodate that many players. Um, I think we would have seen a lot more restrictions or caps on the number of players that they would let in, which may have actually been to the detriment because of less people were able to get into skirmishes and they kind of became a exclusionary despite being online. I think it may have not been as successful as it has been.
Well, I mean, I think going Blitz was, I mean, I think that was the right answer. But I look at my LGS Gongai. Schedule wise, we don't have room for another 8-hour tournament, but we have room for a 3-hour tournament, right?
Right. And actually, now that I think about it, another point to that is Blitz is the only format where all characters are in play.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be another reason with less product and not knowing what people have access to. If you have a character you've liked or you've played, and Blitz is the one format where everyone gets to show up at the table, whereas in Constructed, you wouldn't see Ira, you wouldn't see Benji and some of these other options you would have. And maybe that was another reason why they chose that format.
Well, I mean, they certainly marketed to it not in Monarch, in Crucible of War. So, I mean, maybe that was their finish. But all right, so we have a couple minutes left. Any bold prediction now, not in terms of cards, but any bold predictions for Monarch in terms of formats like we're talking about? Are they going to get more Blitz support, or is it going to be full on back to Classic Constructed?
I think Blitz has gotten enough support and a lot of momentum with the number of games that have been played. I think Constructed will probably always be the old standard. I'm wondering if we'll see cards and formats that they kind of hinted at with what do they call it, pit fight,
multiplayer,
and it would beg to reason that there would be more cards that would kind of lean towards that format, because to my knowledge, I don't know anyone who's actually played a pit fight game. Maybe a couple of guys locally jammed one, and by all accounts, it seemed fun. I don't know if that'll be a mainstay, but I think that's probably if they were going to introduce something new or lean towards something. I think Blitz has plenty going for it. I think Class Constructed is how the game was meant to be played to begin with. So if they're going to be doing anything different to add some more spice, I think it might be in the player versus everyone pit fight format.
Oh, that's an interesting insight. Well, we will see here in about a month. Well, a little more than a month, but I don't know. That's very exciting. Anything else today? I know we were talking kind of all over the map about formats and meta and all that, but anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, good job tonight. Even the 2-2, repping your brutes versus the wall of swords.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks again for joining us today, man. Everyone else, thank you guys for joining us very much. Just want to remind everybody that we get our sealed product and pre-orders are officially in. So don't go get them. Leave them all for me. But pre-orders are officially in at our partner Gongai Games. And I know that our partner Fab Foundry, also if you use the link below, I actually get a small kickback from those singles, but I know they're looking for a big restock. So make sure to hit them up after you crack open all those sweet foils. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Josh, I really appreciate getting you back on here again. And if nothing else, folks, go Commando.